Hello, my fellow dirt road travelers. It is early morning. It is race day. The sun is barely picking up. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning. We've been up since 5 trying to get the truck ready to run this morning. There's some little finer little details we've got to button down, and then we got to get over there within a few minutes to go line up to start this. So let's go do this. It's race day, baby. All right, guys, so they are off on the desert portion of the race. It is going to be a long time. We're not expecting to see them for at least over an hour. They're going to be out there competing. Super Winch and Weston are out there at the remote pit 1, waiting for them just in case something goes wrong and they have to stop. But all plans are that they're going to go and blow past that one and make it back in to the main pit here at the starting gate and fuel up and then go on through, and then we'll be meeting them at remote pit 2 through the rock section. All right, guys, Maxxis is also going to be their first pit stop. Hopefully they're going to skip and bypass, like I said earlier, remote pit 1. This is where they're going to be coming in. So currently all these tarps set on the ground, that is where each car is allowed to stop to pit. Right now Maxxis is pitting around 10 cars this race, so hopefully we do not get bottlenecked at this pit stop. Hopefully the guys are out there in the desert making good time. All right, guys, to be able to fuel up the cars, you have to have a race suit, you're going to have the helmet, and you're going to have one of those fireproof bibs as well. So that's one of the problems that's running into out here. Unfortunately, we don't have one, so we're super lucky that Maxxis is going to do our fueling for us this pit. first driver is coming across the line right now. I believe it's Randy Slosson. He's pulling in. And here come all the other racers right behind him. These guys are flying.
Death proof. You guys got a copy?
All right, guys. At this point, we know something is wrong. The winners have already crossed the finish line. The guys have not even shown up to the main pit. So, unfortunately, it's going to be a waiting game. Now we got to wait to see if we can go find them later on. It might be a late evening retrieval. So now we wait.
All right, so here's where our race is going to end, unfortunately. We lost a front drive shafter earlier in the desert. We had a link come loose and we extended too far and the drive shaft couldn't handle it. So we tried to come in two-wheel drive on the backside of Resolution. This is where we ended up. We're using all of our winch rope to try to get all the way up there and try to get ourselves off the track. We've been at it for a while. We tried a few different rocks that were closer, but none of them worked. We just moved them. So we'll see what we can do. See how we get it out of here.
All right, guys, we just got back at camp. So what went down?
So we had one of the front links loosen up, and then that made the axle further away, and then the front drive shaft came apart. And so that was on the desert loop. We tried to run back to main pit with no front drive shaft, but we got stuck in the sand right before Resolution. And we sat there for 4 hours?
3 to 4 hours.
3 to 4 hours.
Getting sandblasted.
And yeah, getting sandblasted by every truck that went by. And then we broke all the winch lines trying to recover, and we couldn't find any rocks close enough to do anything. We had like 200 feet of winch line out, and we couldn't get anything that would pull us out. Finally, one of the course workers just recovered us, so we're back.
Yay! All right, guys, we're gonna let them cool off. Well, they're probably pretty cold from sitting out there for so long, but we're gonna let them get out, get some water, get something to eat, and just relax for a minute, and then we'll kind of recap the whole race with you guys.
All right, so I'm gonna give you a recap of how our day went, our day of racing went. To start off, both Pat and I were extremely sick. Both of us are still sick right now, so you hear us coughing. It's just we're fighting it right now.
It's not your usual hammer lung. I couldn't leave the RV 2 days ago, and we were both struggling to start the day off for race day.
Yeah, so we were both not feeling well. We took the truck over to get lined up, to get put in our spot, and when we were moving the truck around, we had some smoke come out of the dash, and we lost all ignition power. Ended up melting the ground wire. Luckily, we were able to pull the dash out and get that fixed, and then get lined up in our spot. Once we started, everything went really, really well. We just cruised the first part right after leaving the start line. We didn't try to win any races right there. We were just kind of cruising.
Unlike the other 5 or 6 people who passed us, and then Nate's favorite dude who nerfed us pretty hard.
Yeah, we got nerfed pretty hard by one of the guys that was trying to pass.
Yeah.
So, but it's all right. We let them all by. We got to Turkey Claw, and it was a mess. There was cars backed up everywhere, and everyone was kind of on the right-hand line. So as soon as we got the opportunity, Pat went to the left line, the, I guess, buggy-ish line, and we ran that left line all the way up past, I don't know, probably 20 cars. And then we passed a few more towards the end after you turn the corner in Turkey. And then we got to the desert, and things were working great. Everything was going good. We were probably running, I don't know, average of 40, 50 miles an hour.
Oh yeah.
Everything was working really good. Got into a tight, rocky wash, and after that, I think we loosened up a couple things. We ended up loosening up the link bolts, and when we did that, we ended up losing the drive shaft, the front drive shaft. So we took it out. We didn't have a drive shaft to spare, another spare drive shaft, so it was really not a lot we could do to get it fixed. Because it damaged the whole slip yoke on the drive shaft.
Yeah, it bent the splines on the front drive shaft to where we weren't able to take the slip yoke off our spare rear and put it on there. So we ended up just zip tying it up, taking the front out, and then started cruising back through the desert 2-wheel drive.
Yeah, which was working great. We were still passing people. We were making moves. We just bypassed the pit 1. The remote pit 1, and we were gonna just try to make it to main pit and then see if we could get some help and get the drive shaft fixed.
Yeah, and also at some point in between losing the front drive shaft and pit 1, we started to gradually lose brakes.
Yeah.
So there was even knowing we were gonna pass pit 1 because we knew the tools that we needed weren't gonna be there, we were still moving, but at a smart pace, knowing we didn't have brakes to slow down for cross ruts or big stuff coming out.
Yeah, and I mean, when it did smooth out, though, we were still cruising over 70 miles an hour for a part of it, and we were moving. So we were making good time. We thought, okay, we'll get to pit 1 or main pit. We'll get to main pit. We'll get fixed, and we can keep going. Right before we're getting into main pit, you have to go up this sand hill to get to the backside of Resolution. And coming up there, the 2-wheel drive just wasn't cutting it. We just couldn't get through.
Yeah.
We ended up getting buried in the sand.
Yeah, so even without the front pulling, both front and rear axles were so buried that the skid plate was flat on the sand.
Yeah, and we spent a lot of time running winch line to rocks and just dragging rocks off the mountain because it wasn't pulling us out, it would just pull the rocks in. We did a bunch of that. We ended up cutting the rear winch line and tying it into the front winch line so we had length to get to further away rocks. Same thing, we just drag them in, or they were too round to hook anything to. So we were fighting that. We ended up taking the jack and jacking up all 4 corners, putting the sand back under, putting some rocks in, trying to get going, and it still just dug right in.
Yeah, I think it moved, after the first time it moved maybe 6 inches, and we were being sandblasted by the wind and the sand there, and
yeah,
like we said early on, neither of us felt great to even start the day off. And I don't know, at that point I was probably about 20% struggling to where while we were trying to run the winch line, we'd have to stop halfway and just struggle to get a breath. So
yeah, we were both not feeling great, and that was the end for us. We just, we had called it, and we sat there for a few hours waiting for somebody to come and be able to pull us out. And then eventually we did see one of the King of the Hammers crew come out, and they told us, if we pull you out, we're gonna have to get DNF'd, and that's fine. We were already done. So they came and they pulled us out, and then we just took a different route back. But the truck was still running good. It's just not having 4-wheel drive, we just couldn't make it up that last section.
Yeah, originally we started to sink a little bit. I backed up on a hill and I gave it everything it had to try and get momentum, and it just wasn't enough for that, 1/8 of a mile of sand uphill. So
yeah, we had a great time. Even though we weren't feeling good, I think we both still had a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
and looking forward to doing it again.
Well, and if we weren't feeling sick, we probably would have went and dragged a lot more rocks and just made a whole rock trail to get out of the sand and kept going. Because I think by the time we got stuck, it was just after 11. So even with the issues we had, it was probably about a little over 2.5 hours through the desert.
Yeah, and that was already, we had already stopped twice, because we stopped once and tightened the ball joint eliminators. I forgot to tell you guys that. We were feeling a little loose in the steering, and we ended up tightening the ball joint eliminators, and then kind of just looking over the truck real quick. Apparently we didn't see that link that was loose, but
Yeah,
then we stopped when the drive shaft came apart.
Yeah, I think because we noticed that the ball joint eliminator was extremely loose,
Yeah.
it distracted us from looking at the link at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it probably could have been fixed beforehand if we spent a little bit more time looking at it, but I mean, I was struggling even just to get out of the truck, let alone look at everything.
Yeah, and I mean, you're hyped up. You want to get back out there and get back racing. You don't want to spend a bunch of time looking at the truck during the middle of the race. So,
Yeah.
you know, we overlooked that, and that probably cost us, but we had a lot of fun. It was still a great time. All right, so we just wanted to give huge thank yous to everybody that helped us out. Pat and I both haven't been feeling good. The truck needed a ton of work,
Yeah.
and we had a lot of people come and help us out. We had Joe and Jose, and we had the whole 911 crew help us out. Of course, Fawn and Danny for everything they did to keep us going. Danny even sent us over to get IVs so we could hopefully feel a little better. I don't think I mean, I guess it helped, but we still didn't feel great.
Yeah.
But it definitely helped. And everybody that helped us make this happen, all the sponsors, we destroyed the wheel and tire in qualifying, and Dirty Life and Maxxis both stepped up, and they you know, they got us tires, they got us wheels,
Yeah.
everything, so we were ready to go. We couldn't have done it without everybody.
Oh yeah, I would not have been able to start without everybody's help. There was, I think, a day and a half I couldn't even leave the RV. I was feeling so sick to where I typed up a list for Danny of stuff that needed to get done, and I don't even know who worked on the truck. That Nate probably knows everybody, but I would not have been able to start without everybody's help, and I definitely appreciate it. After all the time and effort I've put in to do this, it would have been a bummer to not even start.
All right, guys, once again, a huge shout out to everybody that helped on this team and make this freaking dream a reality. You guys are gonna see us again. We plan to race for 2025, and guys, you know the drill. We're tired, hungry, and dirty, and that's gonna be the end of this dirt road journey. Bye, guys.